on the field, the feeling I feel when I'm living my life for what's real. Make America healthy, feeling like it's time for a change. We're going back to common sense, making America healthy again. We're going back to common sense, making America healthy again. We're going back up healthy again.
We're going back, Dustin. Healthy again.
You know, I was listening to the song, Kyle, and I was thinking, is it more like real life or is it aspirational? Like, I'm totally getting healthy again.
I mean, I'm feeling good. I'm totally
listen,
getting.
I've been crushing the game. I think I'm just a little tired. I've been stretched a little thin, and like, I'm in that weird spot where I don't get to brag about how awesome all the cool stuff we're doing is. You know, it's like just trust me, bro. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's all cooking, including our friend Ian, who's not going to be with us tonight, as he is in transit or in transition. Ian is transitioning to be.
It's you know, I'm proud of him for making the transition. You know, like it's got to be a tough decision. One that he had to, you know, very carefully weigh. Right? Like, you know, the pros and the
Ian
cons,
is now a pregnant
benefits. But no, Ian, I can't wait. I'm not gonna lie, I'm really excited to watch Ian fill in for Candace Owens. I also, you guys can tell I'm in the new studio, got new digs, and except I forgot to order one piece of equipment. So like I don't have my I have the microphone looking all cool and like slick, but apparently you need something that like goes from this to the computer. Somebody could have told me that yesterday, Kyle. But
well, it looks good just having the microphone like that. So you know, sometimes
you know, I don't want them to block my like manly chest. It would be very upsetting.
Yeah. Well, we've got a great, we're going to you know, in Ian's absence, you know, it might not be as kind of lit as a kind of a comment stream, but yeah, we shall see. But we've got some great guests tonight, including Matt Cormier from Health Uncensored. You know, so I think we should have a really great discussion tonight.
So I've talked to Matt in Twitter space before. His information is super interesting. So like I'm excited to like get Matt on and the rest of the panel. You want to introduce everybody, Kyle?
Yeah, let's go. All right. First up is the one, the only Damian Nichols, aka Bully Crow. Damo, how are you feeling, buddy?
Man, I'm doing great. Dustin, I don't know what you're talking about, dude. I'm killing it on this health thing. At least I'm working on it. Today was a big day. Did a big space announcing that I'm now working with Cooking with Chris. He specifically helps people fix their gut, fix their diet, and get strong and healthy. And I'm doing it all in public. So, yeah, I feel more on top of it than maybe I ever have. Huge, huge day for Damo.
Dude. Heck yeah, bro. Like, and also by I feel by exposing yourself and making yourself vulnerable and throwing it out to everybody else on this journey, it's like, you know, if you can do it, others can, because people are going to look at you and be like, man, if this guy can do it, I can do it.
If this guy can do it, seriously.
This
guy, I'm really putting it all out there.
We can probably do it too.
We talked about my bowel movements. We're really going all in.
Okay. All right. Well, let's bring up our other Club Maha regular, the legendary, the one, the only, Billy Zero.
What's up, guys?
Billy Z. What's up, brother?
What's up?
How's the Lego, Billy? I see you got a lot in the background. Love the studio as always.
Just playing with the Lego, and fighting with people online about fluoride. It's amazing. People are like, "Don't take my fluoride away." Utah and Florida, first 2 states to move towards the
Billy,
ban.
why do you hate teeth? What you got against teeth?
You know what we should do is
Oh,
we should start
no,
a business. We should start a business selling fluoride for anyone who wants it.
Just come get it.
Yeah.
Just fascinating. The brainwashing is
that stuff.
Yeah.
it's
I'm
fascinating.
happy to send you some as long as we stop putting it in the water.
Okay, and no show is complete without our incredible producer, Cheney. Cheney, well, come on, bring yourself up here on stage. There we go. No.
I needed something. How are you guys?
Was
Fantastic.
Flying,
pretty good.
man.
Feeling pretty good. Like pretty excited. Pretty excited. I told maybe I'll talk a little bit about the ordinal stuff a little bit later, but I'm feeling really we're Satoshi will be proud right now. So, and hopefully Bobby's
I
proud
seriously
after this
think
episode.
you should just like, it's so epic. Like, it's so epic. I just imagine my Bitcoin maxi nerds are so angry right now.
Well, I've been like working pretty closely with some Bitcoin maxis over the last little bit, and I like respect him so much. And like, I got into Bitcoin when it was like the shit and was an early evangelist and gave away way more Bitcoin than I'd like to tell anybody about, and like just poured it all into Bitcoin. And then other things started popping up, and Ethereum. I don't know, it's this Ethereum stuff, and I didn't pay attention to it. And then as the whole space grew, and then Dogecoin came along, I loved it. And then, like, we saw the whole NFT rush and all the Bitcoin people like, no to NFTs. It's not real. And then, then Solana comes along and all of a sudden the casino opens up. And it's like, oh, no, it's all just gambling. But the real purpose of Bitcoin, in my opinion, was to be the scalpel to the cancer that is the central banking cartel system that enslaves the globe through the ability to print and control the money supply. So Bitcoin represented that alternative, and that is still my core belief. I believe you free the money, you free the world, you free the markets, you free the world, and that's what we're seeing with Bitcoin. But a couple of years ago, there was like this kind of upgrade, and they enabled basically NFTs on Bitcoin chain, and so I've been helping my friend Antoine, and we just posted a 4 megabyte, which is a whole block inscription of a comic book that's interactive, which features. I'm just going to show it because it's just got it. And then we'll get into the funnier stuff. But this is just, it's too good. It's too good. So this is the inscription. Oh, it's an interactive comic book. And it's called the Decentralized Gentleman Club, and it's going to be up to a 10,000 collection of ordinals, just like the Bored Apes. But the theme is Pepe frogs, which is like one of the dankest memes in the whole space. Wearing tuxedos. This is gentlemen, and we just put this.
Bro, look how sophisticated.
Oh my god!
It's so that Pepe knows. Like, I would give my money to that Pepe.
That's a healthy looking Pepe.
Money.
I mean, it just oozes class. My God,
such class.
The gentleman.
Very gentleman. So, yeah. So this is something that I'm fairly excited about right now, and there's already a little bit of a hubbub and roar out there in the world of nerd internet blog space kind of debate. Antoine, and I feel so bad because Antoine is literally in a plane right now flying from Buenos Aires to Mexico City, so he doesn't even fucking know. And we've been waiting for so long, so it's just like it's like, oh man, a part of me wants to write press releases and push this out. But anyways, we're not going to do that because for the next hour we're here a little bit longer. We're here. Let's dive in. And we have very special guests tonight too. I think a lot of everybody on here knows who he is, but a lot of you out there probably don't. please welcome Matt Cormier to the club. Matt.
Hi, everybody. Great to be here tonight.
Welcome, Matt.
Hey, Matt. Thanks, man. Stoked you can make it.
Very, very cool. Should be a great episode.
Should be fun.
I think so too. And like, the format that we've been rolling with Club Maha is just kind of like a go around discussion, talking about different, topics that are relevant, of newsworthy. One of like I'll just kick it off with Bobby, the Remedy Kennedy, was asked point blank in an interview. I think it was yesterday or the day before, like, they're spraying aluminum and barium and strontium up in our atmosphere and it's falling down on us. And like, what do you have to say about that, Bobby? And he's like, it's not my agency. I'll tell you that much. Like, well, who is it? He's like, it's DARPA. I was like, okay, we're going to stop and we're going to stop this. So fuck yeah, Bobby, for giving answers.
Let's go.
What a legend. And thoughts?
I mean, that shot's fired right there. It's like DARPA. You want to talk about the real origination source of like so many of our health problems? A lot of it you can track back to DARPA and DARPA experimentation, which is pretty freaking wild. And I'm glad to finally see that people are willing to have a conversation about geoengineering, and that like it was not that long ago that if you talked about chemtrails or weather modification, like you were full blown cuckoo, like full blown. You were like, nope, like this person no longer. I had a candidate once who got asked a question at a town hall meeting. This must have been in like 2012 or 2013. And she gave a very real answer, like a legitimate answer. Like, I don't know, these trails in the sky don't seem to be natural. And the like establishment literally nicknamed her like chemtrail. And like half of their like mailers and campaign were attacking her for being a like crazy cuckoo chemtrail person. And now it's just like taken as a given. It's nuts.
And there's a bunch of bills around the country now in states trying to ban it. I think Billy Coder, Council on Domestic Relations, you guys are starting to track that sort of thing?
I think there's 6 states right now. So it's not quite everybody. I think the first time I started talking about it was 2007, 8. And even by 2012, there's a couple good friends of mine that literally just dubbed me as like absolute cuckoo. And even now, if you still talk about, we were just talking about fluoride when it first jumped on. Fluoride, chemtrails, there's still this group of people that they just, I don't know how deep the brainwashing is, but they can't open themselves to even think about it for a minute. It's just cuckoo. It's just fascinating.
Well, that's another one, right? So fluoride, I hope you guys have enjoyed having teeth, okay? Because before fluoride, I don't know if you know this, but humans, like, we had baby teeth, they fall out, and you didn't get new teeth, right? and they put fluoride in the water, and now we're allowed to have teeth into adulthood. And like, I think you guys should show a little goddamn gratitude. Honestly.
I don't know if you guys know this or not, but 40 to 70% of various age groups in the United States have something called fluorosis. They have in other countries, many in Africa, India, they also have it, but for different reasons. It's in their groundwater. Natural occurring fluoride is in their groundwater. So they drink the groundwater and they get fluorosis. Fluorosis actually deteriorates your bones and your teeth. When you have it really bad, kids will actually have deterioration spots on their teeth. That's called fluorosis. So it's always fascinated me. And I got kind of deep dive when I had my first kid between 2007 and 12. That's when I just started reading and my mind just started blowing. Why would you ever think that taking water and putting it into your mouth for a couple seconds and having that wash over your teeth for a couple seconds is going to make them stronger? It just blows my mind. But then it's going to sit in your organs and do stuff, but that's not going to cause any damage. I don't even understand that. It's fascinating.
I thought it went hand in hand though with like the sugar poisoning of America, like with the massive amount of sugar we have in every single product, that if we didn't also have the fluoride poisoning, that all of our teeth really would rot out of our mouth. Because they show this in like third world countries. Anytime we go in with foreign aid and we drop off big boxes of stuff, it'll be tribes that have perfect teeth, no dental issues. The second they start eating the American shit, their teeth just start rotting. So it's like, here's lionfish or tigerfish in your water, lionfish, and then like, we're gonna fix it with snakes, and then we're gonna fix it by pouring oil in it, and then we're gonna fix it. It's like they keep like layering up these bad ideas on top of bad ideas, but it's all poison for us. But then each of our ailments always seem to be entirely different than each other. So we can't pinpoint it exactly how your mRNA shot mixed with the fluoride and your fluorescent bulb is giving you schizophrenia or whatever. So it's like, I feel like it's a systematic like dismantling of our, whether it's fluoride or chemtrails, even the gaslighting to try and convince me that my entire life there's been lines across the sky. Like just the gaslighting, like, no, we would have all drawn that as children. All your little drawings of outside would have been little trees with lines behind every plane. You never drew that. You never drew it once because it didn't exist.
I mean, I don't know how old you are, but I feel like I remember seeing that shit for a pretty long time. But
I don't remember it all my whole youth. But I am pretty old.
Yeah, I mean, I remember like I still have dreams actually, like back to Ottawa, like looking out over the Parliament and seeing like just the heaviest, like thickest, like streamers. Like you could see the shadows being like laid down, and it's just like falling over Ottawa, placing everybody. And then like at the same time, like we'd be reading, I think like Brave New World in high school, and like in Brave New World, the government or whatever, the people in control spray soma onto the people to keep them in a state of perpetual bliss and dumb them down at times. And I'm literally looking out watching like these clouds falling down on our nation's capital.
Well, I mean, Kyle, you've got to be excited, right? Your uncle is now like the leader of your home nation. I mean, that's exciting.
Dude, Uncle Mark and his friends are so good. I'm pretty sure they had like no doubt in their mind that they were going to win that election in Canada. Like they are really, 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 really good. And they've got really good friends all across the board. Now Uncle Mark's, he's now a prime minister. He was dancing afterwards. He had his elbows up. He was dancing. There was like a really awesome clip of him saying, he's like, I cheated to get what I got. Like he literally like says it out loud. I cheated to get what I got.
Well, I mean, he was a central banker, right?
He's a central banker. He was a central banker, not for just one central bank, for two. He did the Bank of Canada, and then he did the Bank of England as well. He was also the special UN envoy. So it's like, he is not just like a Canadian or a Brit. He is like a real like UN, like full-blown globalist. Like Uncle Mark, he rolls in those circles, you know what I mean? And like, so he was also like the climate, like in charge of all climate economics and finance for the UN. So he's been like literally rolling out, like Al Gore was like a spokesperson. Uncle Mark is out there like actually like writing the rules, trying to create these new markets that didn't exist before called carbon markets, where they basically put a price on carbon and then are starting to like suck this price out of the market. And also it's like, deciding like, okay, who gets these credits too? Because like if you have a forest, like you should get some credits, right? Wrong. If you have an oil plant, you have windmills, you should get credits. So like there's some pieces in play, but Uncle Mark's in, and it looks like Alberta, those Western hicks, are going to be leaving. They're like saying we're done. We're having a separation. We're going to launch a referendum. Danielle Smith, who Uncle Mark and his friends think have been trying to like paint her as this like mega winch, this maggot as they call them in Canada. They're saying that she is doing this to do the 51st state kind of thing, but she took the threshold from 600,000 signatures down to 166,000 signatures. Apparently, they already have 300,000 people committed, willing to sign. So it's just a matter of getting the ink on the paper to get the referendum number through, at which to get the referendum commencement number. In the process of referendum, the first thing you need to do is collect signatures. Then the next thing you need to do is it will go to a provincial vote. At which point, I think if it probably means I don't know what it'd be. I don't think it's a 50% thing. It's probably a super majority, maybe a 66% thing, probably 66.6% if I know the way that the Canadian government and the people behind it numbers and choose, probably the number they'll pick.
So what are the chances?
I think it's pretty strong.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Is Alberta going to become the 51st state, bro?
Well, is Alberta going to be an example of a province in Canada leaving the Union and declaring independence from the King? Because we the God save the King, and the King is still what everyone swears to in Canada. And Alberta has no provincial income tax. Alberta has 4 million people and
Nevada of the North,
unbelievable resources. It's what'd you say, Damo?
It's Nevada of the North.
Oh no, it's the UAE of the North.
Interesting.
It's going to be glorious.
Well, we welcome our snow Mexican brothers into our nation and are very excited. Godspeed on your referendum. I think we should jump. I feel like we should clarify that Mark Carney is not really your uncle, but it's kind of funnier if we don't clarify it. But
strike that from the record.
Yeah,
I'm gonna issue a very serious statement right now. Mark Carney is not my uncle. There was a rumor that was put out. There was his mother, Verlee. Her last name was Kemper. Two people having the same last names creates confusion. And when you have a world of very conspiratorial investigators on Twitter connecting every dot that is out there, it's sometimes it's guys, it's there's you go from 8 to 9 to 10 to 11. You don't go from 8 to 11. That messes up your picture. So
that's not tin foil. That's aluminum foil. That's bad for you.
I'm glad you clarified it, though. I honestly was just I don't know. I don't know if it's his uncle or not, but it at this point,
I can say it very naturally, and it's I can drop into that character pretty fun, and Uncle Mark, it's been a time, and I probably will just keep doing it. But
So listen. I want to get to our guest.
Yeah.
I don't know, for whatever reason, I'm in a sarcastic. I'm tired because I've been grinding pretty hard the last week. But Matt, I had a chance to talk to you in the space. And the information you brought on a couple of topics really jumped out at me. The first being the research work that you've done in autism. I think that would probably be a good place to start, and then we can jump into the other big topic.
Sure. Okay. Recently, there's been a lot of speculation, especially with RFK Jr. Getting into HHS about the link between autism and vaccines. I'm the author of a new study that explores that link. The thing is that before we can establish whether or not vaccines might cause or trigger autism, it's imperative to take a look at what autism actually is. I have a short video presentation I'd like to share right now, and then briefly talk about my study. But this is an alternative hypothesis. This is something none of the other experts in the field have talked about or addressed. So this is new. Are common viral infections like herpes simplex driving the autism epidemic? And are vaccines triggering the onset of autism by disrupting the immune system, causing the reactivation of viruses we're already carrying. My name is Matt Cormier. I'm an independent researcher, and today I'm here to give a brief presentation on my new study exploring the connection between vaccines and autism spectrum disorder. Before we can begin to establish whether or not vaccines might cause or trigger autism, we have to take a look at what autism actually is. One of the known risk factors for having a child with autism is acute illness and maternal immune activation during pregnancy. It's also been shown that pregnant women that contract viral infections such as rubella, cytomegalovirus, and herpes simplex have a much greater likelihood of having a child with autism. It's been suggested that viral infections during pregnancy can disrupt the development of the central nervous system in the unborn baby. This leads into a discussion on viral encephalitis. Viral encephalitis is a condition where a viral infection makes its way into the brain, triggering an inflammatory response and severe neurological problems. There are multiple case studies suggesting a direct relationship between viral encephalitis, particularly herpes simplex encephalitis, and the onset of autism spectrum disorder. An 11-year-old child develops autism following an episode of herpes simplex encephalitis. At follow-up after 3 years, he continued to show the core deficits of autism. A 14-year-old girl develops all the classical symptoms of autism over a 70-day period after contracting herpes simplex encephalitis. A 31-year-old man contracts herpes simplex encephalitis and over the following months develops all the symptoms considered diagnostic for autism. So, we've got evidence that viral infections may be directly involved in causing autism. Now the big question, where do vaccines come into play? This is where we talk about something called vaccine-induced viral reactivation. It's where taking a vaccine disrupts the immune system, which allows the reactivation of dormant viral infections people are already carrying. The case studies documenting vaccine-induced viral reactivation date back over 20 years, including several involving herpes simplex encephalitis. So, we've got a significant body of research suggesting that viral infections play a causal role in the development of autism spectrum disorder. And we've got a large body of evidence suggesting that vaccines may trigger autism by reactivating viruses people are already carrying. My study is the first to document this connection. Thank you for watching. Please give this a share. This is Health Uncensored. So, that's my video presentation. Basically, a lot of the talk and speculation that's been on the link between vaccine and autism has been focused on adjuvants, or Bobby Kennedy was focused on the use of thimerosal, ethyl mercury, as being the causal factor in triggering autism. But the thing is that there's a lot of people that have never received any vaccines that qualify, clinically speaking, for ASD. They've never taken any vaccines and they have autism. They have an autism diagnosis. And there's many people that have received all of their childhood vaccinations and they're not autistic. So there's biological variables that aren't being accounted for. At least they're not being discussed. And that was kind of the focus of my paper. There's a large body of research implicating common viral infections, like herpes simplex, for instance, the virus responsible for cold sores, as playing a central role in the development of autism, in the pathology as well. This doesn't get talked about much. Not very many people are raising awareness about this. So there's a significant body of research implicating common viral infections playing a direct part in causing autism. We have that. And then there's this other large body of research implicating vaccines reactivating viruses people are already carrying. So nowadays, pretty much everyone carries latent or dormant viral infections. And your immune system does a good job in keeping them dormant. But if something should disrupt your immune system, cause the immune system to break down like a vaccine, latent viruses can reactivate, and then they could trigger an inflammatory process. And that can lead to various diseases or conditions. So, I think this is, in my opinion, this is it. This is the trigger. This is why some children are relatively okay after receiving vaccines and others aren't. Others regress into autism. I think the variable is viral infections passed on from mother to child during pregnancy. And that sets the stage for a catastrophic neurological event once they receive their vaccines.
So I think it's an interesting hypothesis and definitely like warrants more study. One of the things that jumped out at me was the cases of late, like extremely late
Right,
in some
31
cases.
years old.
Yeah.
Those case studies are huge. They're really significant. Basically, you have healthy neurotypical people, various age groups, children, teenagers, middle-aged adults, asymptomatic, no psychiatric diagnosis, is completely healthy. They have a period of viral encephalitis, which, to put it simply, a viral infection makes its way into the brain, into the central nervous system, and it triggers an inflammatory response. They have a period of viral encephalitis, herpes simplex encephalitis, and right at that time begins symptom onset of autism. And
this
they
is when you hear
qualify
those stories from mothers that are like, I saw my baby, I saw my toddler change before my eyes.
Yes,
right after getting a course of vaccines.
Generally speaking, the order of events anecdotally reported are: a child receives a vaccine or a series of vaccine. There's a period of acute illness, fever, and often febrile seizures, which indicate central nervous system involvement. And then it's like the light goes out, and they're never the same. They regress.
Yeah.
So Matt, how many cases are documented of people like having the onset of autism spectrum disorder after the age of 10? I don't know that I've ever, before your study, that I've ever seen that anywhere. How many cases are there like that?
Well, autism spectrum disorder, really, it's just a clinical diagnosis. It's a term for a clinical diagnostic criteria. So it doesn't really make a difference when symptom onset begins. If you qualify clinically, if they go through a checklist with the symptoms you're experiencing, you can receive that diagnosis. There's a lot of people nowadays that they're getting the diagnosis in the 30s, 40s, 20s. That's kind of what a lot of people are speculating is playing into the rising rates of autism. They're saying that it's being overdiagnosed. We have more sensitive diagnostic criteria, and there's more awareness.
So what are the chances that this whole COVID epidemic and the massive global vaccination might surface just a ton more examples?
In triggering autism?
Yeah, because I mean, just like everyone that went with it got hit with it.
Sure. The rates have risen significantly. The thing is, though, is that common viral infections are implicated in a ton of different diseases and conditions and cancers. So let's say there's a link between multiple sclerosis and Epstein-Barr virus. Pretty much the entire population carries Epstein-Barr virus, but there's an established link. There's a link between Alzheimer's disease and herpes simplex type 1. Pretty well established. Common viral infections are involved in causing diabetes if they get into the liver and the pancreas.
And isn't it like if ladies are pregnant and they have herpes, they can't give birth vaginally or they'll have like a blind child?
That's possible. Sure. Absolutely.
Like, I feel like some of it's like very known, like in the, like they have to have a C-section. Somebody in the chat smarter than me will probably know better, but also something in this whole entire thing that you notice is there's a whole series of shots. I always say, don't let this mRNA vaccine become the Lee Harvey Oswald of vaccines. because a big, huge thing is like HPV is just given to women. And so if they can get any woman to take a shot, they have just vaccinated their grandchildren because they have all their eggs in utero. So if you look at like, they say all these things like, oh, men are carriers, but they have no symptoms. Let's just give this to the women. The thing that you have to think about is all of us are inside our grandmothers. It doesn't matter if you're a woman or a man. So if they can vaccinate the lady or convince the girls, like, this is going to help you with ovarian cancer, get this whole new rung of shots. But there is a lot of things, whether it's cold, flu, herpes, this thing called virus that stems all the way back from, we could have things that lay dormant in us all the time, but like you were saying, our immune system over and over again can fight most things off. But if you're just sticking yourself with all these viruses at once now, how in the hell does your body know what to do? And there is a good opportunity that a lot of the things that you're sticking with have never been stuck in any one of your bloodline ever. And so it's just like, let's just see what'll happen. Let's just roll the dice and see what'll happen. Let's do it to a 6-month-old.
So I'm curious, Matt. Well, one of the theories that like I've explored and that I found to be very interesting is that it's the combo vaccines that tend to have a higher rate of like issues and like negative consequences. And for your theory, the idea would be that maybe one or multiple like different parts of the vaccine suppress a certain type of antibody or something in the immune system that allows for the reemergence of these dormant viruses that almost everybody carries. And so I guess it would line up with, right, that the kind of the onslaught of these combo vaccines like would have a higher incident rate. Would that fit your general theory?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. A simplistic explanation of vaccines is that you have an antigen, which is basically a molecular sequence for your immune system to target, let's say in the sense of a viral infection. So they deactivate a virus and they insert that, and then there's an adjuvant. And the thing is that if you receive an antigen without an adjuvant, nothing happens. You don't form IgG antibodies. There's no immune response. You don't get sick. So the adjuvant is in it to stimulate an immune response. The problem is that adjuvants break down innate immunity, and they shift cell-mediated immune function into an allergen state. So to put it briefly, the immune system is separated into two sides. You have your allergen response, and then you have your cell-mediated response. And it would be TH2 and TH1. If your immune system is skewed towards allergen, a TH2 response, it won't respond properly to pathogens or cancer. That would be the TH1 arm of the immune system. So when you take a vaccine, you're promoting a TH2 response. And when that happens, you can get viral reactivation. And when there's viral reactivation, viruses establish dormancy in different areas of the body. Certain viral infections have a preference for certain systems. So that's why for one person, they take a vaccine and they develop hepatitis. For another person, it could be encephalitis. For another person, it may flare their diabetes. So there's a lot of different variables. The research, though, on the link between autism and vaccines in particular is growing every day. You know, what was shown in my video is just a small sample of what's in my study. There's over 41 citations. There was a really interesting study, significant study, showing that they took a group of autistic children and compared them to neurotypical healthy children. And in the autistic group, 65% tested positive for herpes simplex virus IgM antibodies, which means acute or active infection. That's significant. 65% of the children in the autism group had active herpes simplex virus. So there's so much correlating data. It has to be stated, I need to mention, though, that my research article is preprint. It hasn't been published yet. It hasn't been through peer review. And it's a literature review with a hypothesis. So for anyone listening right now, this is not conclusive. It's something I want to get tested. I'm looking to raise awareness to test this hypothesis, and then we can see, whether this is happening or not.
Matt, I think Matt, have you heard of PANS and PANDAS?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So for those of you who don't know, it's pediatric autoimmune neuropsychiatric disorders associated with streptococcal infections. That's PANDAS. And there's also the version that doesn't have streptococcal infection. It made me think of that because that's something similar. It's a bacterial infection. You get that, and then you develop this OCD type of response from this infection, whether that lies in dormant or something, and people can get it from mold. Do you think it's kind of similar? Do you think the vaccines are actually triggering it along with maybe food and water and other things? Or you think it's not the food, it's not the water, it's not anything. It's really just right back to the vaccines and triggering?
I would say that our immune systems are being compromised from a variety of sources. There's a lot of studies, and this doesn't really get talked about because before we have the vaccine discussion, we have to talk about viral transmission, because there's people that are exposed to viral infections that the virus doesn't transmit and they don't get sick. Candace Owens was mentioned a little while ago. She spoke about how her husband had COVID and she was sleeping in a bed with him and she never caught it, never tested positive. She didn't have the vaccine, nothing. There's a lot of medical literature on that as well. So when we start talking about viral transmission, really what we're talking about is physical barriers, your skin, your mucosal membranes, but then more importantly, the innate immune response. So the innate arm of your immune system basically is a non-specific response to anything foreign, whether it's a viral infection, a bacterial infection, parasitic. And if you have functioning innate immunity, you can be exposed to a viral infection, but you'll never develop a pathology. Your immune system wipes it out immediately. When we get into environmental factors, there's a lot of studies, there's many studies on the role of heavy metal toxins in disrupting innate immune function. A little while back, bird flu was being talked about a lot in the news, bird flu epidemic. There was a really, really, really interesting study in 2022 showing how, in California, showing how birds that have been environmentally exposed to mercury, they were 5 times higher to test positive for avian influenza, for bird flu. And the researchers looked into their immune function, and it was shown, like I mentioned, that innate immunity was disrupted by the mercury. So that gave way to viral transmission and a disease process. So to me, in my opinion, that's the discussion we should be having. But the problem is that it's healthcare has become politicized, and when we start talking about environmental toxins, we start pointing the finger at very powerful people. So.
Yeah, and I think one of the things Bobby has been kind of mentioning is he wants to better understand this, and there's a whole myriad of factors that are out there, and it feels like this is one hypothesis or strain of or line of research that should be included in that study body. Are you submitting this towards these groups, or what's at what stage is this this hypothesis and study in are you aware of Bobby or any people in HHS having been made aware of this thesis?
My paper is currently in peer review. It's been submitted for peer review. I've been in contact recently last week with Children's Health Defense. I sent them my paper. They responded favorably, but so I'm hoping to hear back from them. But the thing is that no one's ever covered this before. My research is completely novel. No one's ever talked about herpes simplex and autism. No one's ever talked about vaccines reactivating herpes simplex. You can look far and wide on the internet. None of the other experts in the field have ever covered this. So it's novel research, and it deserves attention.
And I feel like it would require probably a much more focused, dedicated study towards understanding that, because it's my understanding that a large portion of the population has been exposed or carried herpes simplex kind of at one point or another. And I don't think that everybody who's necessarily gotten a vaccine has, you know, becomes autistic as a result.
The thing is the clinical diagnostic criteria for autism has changed a little bit over the years, but I think the last rates I read was 1 out of 31. So 1 out of 31 people are clinically diagnosed with autism in the United States. If everyone were to go in and go through the clinical diagnostic criteria, that rate would jump. You know, something as simple as having social anxiety, having trouble making eye contact, repetitive behaviors, things of that nature, that's putting someone under the spectrum. You're under there. Basically, in a nutshell, most of the research involving autism is it's chronic neurological inflammation, it's impaired immune response, the immune system dysfunction, and endocrine and nervous system problems. So the three of those things go hand in hand. The hormones are off, the nervous system's off, chronic infections, chronic inflammation, and basically, and this is becoming commonplace, is that the immune system reaches a stalemate with the infections the body's harboring. But that kind of leads into the next discussion.
Well, so before that, I just want to say, well, one of the things that really interests me and concerns me, and we talked about this on the show last week, you would think that if you took one of the better developed large language model AI systems and you gave it all of the like available autism medical data, right? Like, and again, we can use zero knowledge proofs to protect people's like individual records and information, right? So that it's not tied to the person. It's just, right? Like, here are the records of the person. This is like the series of symptoms. You would be able to easily pull out, I'm sure, a variety of viruses and like in COVID, like comorbidities, right? Like that there's a much higher than normal like relation between autism and whether it's herpes simplex or whether it's gut health, another theory that like I've listened to and entertained for a long time, and its impact. We should be able to like pull those out and then examine them one on one, and yet the information continues to be hidden from us. And that to me lends to this being more than just a health crisis, that this is like criminal, right? The fact that you know the fact that anybody in the industry would want to hide the raw data and information, to me, lends to the idea of culpability and pre-knowledge and the continuation of just earth-shattering, life-changing negative effects. It's really frustrating. I appreciate the research, and I wish we had more access to more of the information that's been collected for a long time, and yet for one reason or another, they always seem to find a way to deny it to us.
Yeah. There's a fine line. I'll say kind of what you were leaning into is that there's a fine line between gross neglect and malicious intent. And it's where is that line getting crossed, and is it getting crossed? And if it is, what's the response? You know,
one thing I'll say, Matt, is like, it's good to hear you say cause or trigger, because one of the biggest things over the last 12, 15 years I've come to understand is that I don't know that we can ever use the word cause. I don't think, me personally, I don't think you can ever say a vaccine causes autism unless that child is born on an island and has clean water and organic banana, and that's it for its whole life until it gets autism. And then you could say, okay, that was the cause. But other than that, I think we have to move in this society, especially to convince the next group of people that are on the fence that the word is trigger. And there's so many factors. So I really appreciated you saying that.
That's such a good point, Billy. Like there's so many factors. Like I really great point.
Yeah, and I also appreciate, and I think this might help the argument, especially if it becomes more compelling, that it's not the vaccines in and of themselves going with this trigger thing. It's the reactivation of a virus and viral encephalitis in the brain causing inflammation. So vaccines do that, can very frequently re-trigger a virus, and that is a massive risk factor for triggering autism. It's not
Right.
just vaccines.
Right. Right. Exactly.
It expands the discussion in I think, a very productive way.
Right. Right. Exactly. To me, the hypothesis provides an explanation on why some children are relatively okay after receiving a series of vaccines and others aren't. But what you said, it's established that viral encephalitis can trigger autism. Several case studies on that. So that's established. Viral encephalitis can be a trigger for autism, and vaccines can trigger viral encephalitis.
Yep, you've created a multi-step link in the chain.
Right.
And as far as what you've put together proves true, you've provided a real hypothesis here. And I'll just say, just in general, from the brief interactions I've had with you over the last week or so, I really appreciate how you dive really deep and you add nuance. And everything I've heard you talk about so far comes at things from a direction I didn't expect, that has that nuance and has really solid logic and case studies and research behind it. And that to me is really impressive, because a lot of folks, they might be better at shock value, or they're better at social media or that sort of thing. But you really just seem really thoughtful with what you're doing, and I appreciate it a lot, man.
I appreciate you saying that, Damo. I'm lacking as a public speaker. It's not something I'm very good at, but my research, I think, is very good, and it's a skill set I've worked really, really hard to develop. And it's taken a lot of time.
Well, this whole Maha thing, right? Excuse me. It's a grassroots movement, and I'm a grassroots guy. And so my big thing is stitching together the people, the organizations, the coalition, the awareness, the connections, the relationships, and everything. So, for instance, Billy here has the Council on Domestic Relations. And he's linking up with all sorts of fantastic organizations to create that fabric of connections and network that's necessary, so that someone like you, who has something really compelling, what are the links in the chain that get your message to the right people that can then run it up the flagpole?
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. Which a great time to say that. I'm very, very grateful to be here tonight, and grateful to all of you for having me on.
Hey, we're stoked to have you. And by the way, anybody watching, his Twitter handle is right there in his name, @HealthUncensored, with no E between the R and the D at the end. Give him a follow. His posts are fantastic. It's really thought-provoking stuff.
I got one more thing I want to jump in here and say before we move topics. It's on inflammation, and what you're saying there goes kind of back to inflammation and how that can trigger. My third child was born, wouldn't latch, wouldn't eat. We did the elimination diet, found out that the baby was allergic to wheat. So as a family, we gave up wheat for 14 months. So I gave up beer and moved to cider. I'm an Italian boy, eating bread every day and pasta. Gave that up. 14 months, hardest 14 months of my life.
You're a good man.
My wife's migraines went away. My eczema went away. My allergies cut in half. I lost weight. I felt better. Since that happened in 2012, my wife is still gluten-free. I eat a little bit of bread here and there. And I've told this to other people and done a lot of research on the fact that gluten does cause inflammation, and it does trigger a lot of other health issues in your body, particularly since that gluten is most likely loaded with glyphosate. So you can search glyphosate, NIH, gluten, and you'll see the use of glyphosate and the increase of celiacs right over time. You search it and it comes right up. It's a major study. So anybody out there listening, you want to do a simple study? If you're over 50 years old, even if you're younger and you have joint pain, you cut out gluten for 30 days. You will notice the difference. It's one of those things you can just do a test on inflammation in your own life by cutting out gluten for 30 days, and you will notice a difference. So little health tip.
And not to go too far on a tangent with that, but I'm working with this guy, Cooking with Chris. I'm super stoked, and I watch his posts, and he often posts what he buys at the grocery store, at the farmer's market, and all that. And he does eat some bread, but it's always sourdough. And the sourdough culture actually pre-breaks down some of that gluten, which makes it easier to process. Another thing he talks about that I've been aware of for a little while, European wheat, way less common to cause problems. And part of that is the glyphosate. They don't really use it over there. But also, I hear that in Europe, they tend to use what's called soft wheat, as opposed to in America where they tend to use hard wheat. And so it's a lower concentration of gluten there. And it might even be like a different sort of type of gluten. I'm not sure. But if you just can't give it up, A, sourdough, B, European bread, C, European flour. Like if you want to do noodles, Cheney, you're muted, by the way. If you want to do noodles, get them real from Italy, and they'll be the better kind of wheat without the glyphosate, and you might find that you process them better.
I was just going to add, a lot of it's just quick rising yeast in America. Like a lot of European breads, they let their bread rise and gather yeast from the surrounding environment and not out of a little cube that you throw in.
The Fleischmann's or whatever.
Yeah, so
yeah,
it's just letting the time happen and it gather naturally instead of it just like, here's this little processed thing of yeast.
Yeah, and by the way, this might be a nice moment to mention that we have a community on X, Club Maha community. And in my own gut healing journey, which I just formally kicked off today with Cooking with Chris, I'm going to be sharing what I'm eating. I'm going to be sharing what I'm going through, and I'm going to dive in. I'm going to start making my own yogurt. I might make my own bread. I don't know. But get into the Club Maha community, share what you're going through. Let's share our health journeys. Let's go on this journey together. It's also a great place to post what's going on in the Maha world, policy, all that sort of stuff. So jump in there. Cheney, if you want to pull it up on the screen, I did drop the link in the chat. It's early days for the community, but we're also launching, or at least I'm launching all the spaces I'm doing directly from that community as well. So if you want to know when we go live, join the Club Maha community.
Epic.
What they're talking about there, it's the bran and the germ that is primarily removed from American wheat. You go back and do the research on wheat. It used to be tall. We used to process it differently. The wheat that we had 110 years ago is completely different than the wheat we have now. They take out the good part. In an American wheat, we use kind of the exoskeleton of it. So it's basically different than other countries.
Yeah, that didn't surprise me. And I hear that that's true for a lot of our produce, right? That they started, the prime example is the red delicious apple, which is red but is not delicious because they spent so much effort cultivating varieties that made it a picture perfect apple, but they're mealy, they're flavorless. Carrots didn't used to be so sweet. A lot of stuff like that. Plus, a lot of our produce is coming out of soil that has been depleted of nutrients while also being chemical bombed. So we've really got to go back to first principles here.
Billy, I have a quick question for you. Have you ever looked into statistical analysis of whether or not the rates of, say, celiac disease or gluten sensitivity is rising? Have you ever looked at the numbers on that?
It is rising. If you search NIH gluten celiac, the very first link will be that NIH study that shows the use of glyphosate rises directly with the rise of celiac. It's like in line, and that's
people aren't allergic to glyphosate, or people aren't allergic to gluten; they're allergic to glyphosate, right?
I get what you're saying.
Well, there's some interesting studies on that. That's what I think is really hard to tell. I think there's people that are actually allergic to gluten, and I think there's people that are definitely allergic to glyphosate, and they're both of them. The way that we're producing wheat is not beneficial to our diet. It's beneficial to the production of the bread. In fact, that's why that's why we have this reverse pyramid system where they wanted you to eat bread, because they're putting on your plate the cheapest possible thing to produce and not the most expensive thing to produce. So what they were giving us was things that they could produce for 10 cents that you're buying for 50 cents.
Man,
now, they produce for 40 cents, you're buying for $4. So the markup is so high on those breads. So yeah, there's a direct correlation between the amount of wheat that we eat and celiac and the amount of glyphosate used per pound of food in the country over 20 years. It's a
And
very
not,
interesting study.
and not to stack more on, but there's more to stack on when it comes to bread. One, enriched flour with its folic acid, with its iron, and those sorts of things. I don't know the truth of it yet because I'm still diving into all this, but I've read a lot of people say that those enriched vitamins and iron aren't actually bioavailable, and might be stacking on the sort of inflammatory response that makes it even worse. And then
Yeah, we
on
don't
top,
buy bread with folic acid. I specifically live. It's got folic acid. We'll get the
I
hot
just
dog
don't
bun.
do enriched flour. I just don't do enriched
Yeah.
flour. But if you're going to restaurants, especially fast food restaurants, not only is it probably glyphosate bombed, not only is it enriched with all this stuff that's not bioavailable, it's also got all these preservatives and other crap in it, the brominated flours and crap like that. So it's like it's the worst of the worst unless you go really far out of your way to make sure that the stuff you're taking in is clean stuff.
And what's really interesting on that, the brominated flour also inhibits the uptake of other vitamins. So if you're
Right,
eating all this
anti-nutrient,
bread,
basically.
it basically stops your body from uptaking the vitamins that you need, like vitamin A, D, calcium. Because the brominated stuff is sitting in your gut and making it leaky, your body then can't uptake the vitamins you need. So it's a double and triple sword coming right at you when you eat bread.
And this is at the
Give it up
heart
for 30
of,
days, you will notice a difference.
Yep, and this is at the heart of my health journey because it functionally boils down to dysbiosis and leaky gut. I got to get my microbiome back in order, and I have to spend time making sure that I'm eating clean enough that I'm not experiencing an inflammatory response and eating the foods that rebuild my gut lining. And this is a journey that, 15 years now I've had a skin condition because of this, but I've probably been experiencing it for more like 40 years because of all the times I had to take, antibiotics when I was a kid, when I was getting bronchitis every year. And I've been a skinny dude my whole life. And it really cuts back to what you were saying, that I have not been able to uptake the nutrients that I have been eating. So I just don't gain weight. And I've got all these other issues. Brain fog. I was not that long ago diagnosed with ADHD and somewhere on the spectrum. And, lost my freaking hair. And, it's just my eyes aren't so great anymore. And I'm just so tired of it, man. But here in the States, you have to take it seriously and you kind of have to go on a journey. And because, thank God we've got Bobby and HHS now, but you can't just go to the doctor and have them tell you what's wrong and help you through it. You got to go so far out of your way. And if you drink from the fire hose of social media, there's 25 different paths that people swear by. How do you, what do you do? I'm really dedicated to helping us find our way on this, starting with myself.
All right. I want to take us a little, just pivot us a little bit here, because there's been some other kind of interesting developments as part of the whole Maha thing. And I'm going to call this next little motion here. Hold on. This is the Maha report, friends. So, America is overweight, and there is one state in particular that is the fattest of them all, and the fattest state in America.
Should we take bets on which one it is?
Which one do you think it is, guys?
Oklahoma.
I want to say it's like Louisiana.
Louisiana, ranked number 4.
I'm going with Oklahoma. Yeah.
11.
Dang, good on you, Okies.
Lead. Anyone want to guess?
New York.
New York, 41.
New York's all right, but they got Manhattan. Those guys walk a lot.
Texas.
Texas, number 8. So, drum roll, the fattest state in America is West Virginia.
Damn.
I don't see it on.
West
I'm kind of proud of my
Virginia
guess, not gonna lie.
has an obesity problem. And in the spirit, Governor Morrissey has launched the Mountaineer Mile initiative as part of a greater Maha kind of initiative to get West Virginians moving a little bit, 1 mile at a time. So they're loading up trails all over, or they're setting the challenge for West Virginians to get out there. And we have even one of the schools are getting on board. And, this is it's taking shape. So just a quick little Maha report. There's action. The Mountaineer Mile. Kudos to West Virginia on trying to get rid of that title. And hopefully more can get on board with that as well.
Respect.
Example number 800,942 of Dustin's rule that bullying actually works. Right? You may remember that Bobby and Governor Morrissey got together, 2 or 3 weeks ago? And I believe Bobby said it looked like he had eaten Governor Morrissey. Wasn't that what happened?
Bobby said it looked like he had eaten Governor Morrissey.
So Governor Morrissey is a gigantic human being. Like he might be like responsible for half of the reason that like West Virginia's average is so high. Like, he might weigh 900 pounds, right? Like I'm not even joking. He's probably like,
I'm pulling up a pic.
Yeah, pull up a pic
to give you some validation.
Actually, look up for the article. No, Bobby insulted him to his face for being so fat. And now he's like, dude, I can't have this like fit guy coming in here and punking me out. Yeah, look at this tubby.
Okay, but look at that. Look at him then. But if we actually, I think he's been on a heck of a health journey as well himself, because, like, just look at this photo. It's from.
Please be Fabio. Please be Fabio.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like full there yet,
This
but
little jaw.
no, it's trimming down.
Looking like John Cena.
I don't see anything.
I'm not seeing it, bro. I see the image. I'm just not seeing the real.
Oh, you're not seeing the big.
Seriously, can somebody find if I just made that up in my head, that's like really kind of concerning. But I'm almost positive that Bobby Kennedy, within like the last month, like had an event with Governor Morrissey and said something along the lines of, like, where's Governor? Like, you're so big, it looks like you ate Governor Morrissey.
Oh, here we go.
Am I wrong?
No, you're not.
It just seems like a weird thing to be
not
in my
a boss
head
man fever dream.
According to People magazine, RFK Jr. mercilessly fat shamed the governor at live joint appearance.
There's a clip of it on YouTube. It popped up.
Oh yeah. I think we need a clip. I want to hear Bobby say this.
Put the link in the private chat and I'll pull it up.
I'm glad that we were able to. I was like, I could have
mercilessly fat shamed.
He's not exactly the Bank of International Settlements guy. That's the end boss of the Federal Reserve System. But
dude, I will just put this out there, right? Like, so I have come to find, like anyone who's been around American Mission knows that, like, I do not advocate for calling your congressman and be like, yes, hello, sir. Like, I will fucking make fun of your toupee. Like, I will fat shame you. I will put up billboards that make fun of, like, your lazy eye. Like, and guess what? That's how you get results. Like, oh, yes, hello, sir. Would you be nice? Doesn't work. Watch how this gets. Look at Fatty Morrissey's now like Mr. Fitness. This is why, right here.
All right, here's Bobby.
Got to know. I said to Dr. Morris or Governor Morrissey the first time I saw him, I said, "You look like you ate Governor Morrissey." and there was a lot of talk about getting healthy again, and I'm very happy that he's invited me to be his personal trainer.
Yo,
and I am going to put him.
Dude,
I'm going to put him on a really rigorous regimen, and we're going to put him on a carnivore diet.
Let's go.
We're going to make him do Raise your hand if you want Governor Morrissey to do a public weigh-in once a month.
Oh my God!
Jeez.
And then when he's lost 30 pounds, I'm going to come back to the state and do a celebration and a public weigh-in with him.
That's awesome. That's straight up awesome. And by the way, for anyone struggling to lose weight, I've been in the carnivore community because I spent 6 weeks doing it just to give my gut a break. Most people go on carnivore to lose weight. And apparently it works really, really well.
Ironically, there's a song by an artist named Morrissey called "You're the One for Me, Fatty." Just a musical tidbit out there, just to throw it out.
How epic were those comments, though?
It's brilliant.
I'm surprised you guys didn't see that. It's one of those things that came. I think somebody sent it to me because, like, I really do have this theory about like bullying works, and like the anti-bullying stuff was like the anti, like, how we get people to get better stuff, right? And I think that's a prime example. I think that's just prime Bobby too. Like, good Lord, let's go.
You know, that's interesting too, because Bobby's whole vibe generally, especially during the campaign, is that he wouldn't talk shit about a person. He would talk about policy and he would be critical where he needed to be, but he wouldn't actually talk shit about a person. So I think it's actually an example of what you're saying is he did it for that reason. I'm not doing this because I hate you. It's you need to hear some hard truths. And I'm gonna be a little punchy with it. I'm just gonna do it.
I'm going to be a little punchy with it. He was just trolling him to his face because he doesn't give a shit.
I think he does give
I'm going to be a little punchy with that.
I think he does.
I mean, that, again, crazy example.
You think you ate Mark Carney? I have Uncle Mark Carney in my head.
Notice that it's having the impact, right? Like right out of the gate. Like now, all of a sudden, he's health conscious because, like, dude, you got embarrassed a little bit. Like that is not like, right? Like, stop being so soft, toughen up, right? Like, sorry, bro. Like, you're a little bit of a fat. I'm a little bit of a fatty, right? Like, yeah, either fix it or you get tougher skin to deal with it. Come on now.
All right. And now moving on to the next one. Maha report. Okay, we have other breaking news as well. This one broke a little bit earlier in the month, but we didn't properly cover it. And this one is the EPA has declared that it will expeditiously review new science on the fluoride in the drinking water. And this is something that these guys have not looked at in a very, very, very long time. And it feels like this is something we are really kind of rolling towards. Thoughts?
Yes, please.
It's amazing. Florida and Utah, first states to ban it. My personal state of the week is Florida for banning fluoride and passing HB 477, 5 years and $100,000 for geoengineering, basically chemtrails. It's the first state to do something that big. So you're going to jail and you're going to be there for 5 years and you're going to be fined $100,000. Florida state of the week.
And they shut down. Have they shut down the Monsanto immunity bill yet? I think it didn't move forward. Basically,
didn't move forward yet.
Yeah,
and then Cheney, you showed some.
So it's like dead for the year.
And Cheney, you showed a tweet earlier of like breaking news that just broke like a couple hours ago out of Florida, saying the geoengineering bill has moved past and is now just going towards signature. It's heading to Governor DeSantis' desk. So, woo!
Amazing.
I just want to take a second to tell the over 9,000 people that are watching, make sure you follow everyone on the stage, hit the bell or the thumbs up or the subscribe wherever you're at, and make sure that you go over to Club Maha so you can get more of this content all the time. And if you want to wear some groovy Club Maha gear, if you want to make America healthy again and look as good as Kyle Kemper's about to look, then you can go get your merch and get 20% off using this code somewhere. Maha 20.
We got the dark Maha hat too.
Light Maha, dark Maha, whichever one.
Fresh t-shirt designs. Also, If you want to really start getting the good beef in your life, if you go to beefinitiative.com/pages/Club Maha, we've got some specials in there straight from Ebersol Ranch Mama Shannon. She sent me some of her ground beef and some of her fajita strips, and they are literally the cleanest beef I've ever had in my life. It's amazing. We will be integrating that page into our website as soon as we do a proper refresh of our website, and then it'll live at something like clubmaha.com/beef.
And something happened to Dustin. I think something came up with him. He just had to drop off for a moment, but
We have a replacement.
one drops out, another one drops in. Please, everybody, welcome Johnny Paradise.
Hey, everybody. How's it going? Good to see you.
Johnny, how you feeling? We growing, baby?
Guys, I just got good news. Florida, no more fluoride in the water. Let's keep our IQ points if we got them, especially for the kids. How crazy
That if is carrying a lot of weight there, bro.
And so a little bit more, like no more fluoride. Like, are you saying there's no fluoride in the water right now? Like, I can start drinking this algae-filled tap water?
I bet we should wait 6 to 12 months, Kyle. But yeah, something along those lines soon, brother.
In the meantime, get yourself a Berkey filter with the extra attachment.
Yeah, if you've got an extra, what are those ones? Those ones don't run cheap, do they?
Not super cheap. It's like $400 or so, but you get it with that extra attachment. It'll last you even with the whole family for like a year.
And that's just we should probably do like a whole thing about like actually how like a water show and looking at really like, because like the showers, the baths, like,
yeah, get yourself a shower water filter,
good stuff, but like
Kyle, I got the perfect person for that. I had Kelly Ryerson on, and she's like the glyphosate advocate on Instagram. Making our food safer that way. And she mentioned the Berkey filter, right? To get that glyphosate out of our water, because it's everywhere. Same thing, atrazine.
Glyphosate is in our water.
Well, there's atrazine in our water for sure, and in glyphosate, man, I've heard from
there's so much stuff in the water, like
the pharmaceutical residues, and
everything goes in back into the water. So it's like, that's why you really you got to recognize the key point to protect your house is the water intake. It's like,
right. If you can afford it and you own your home,
intercepting that water, right there, and at least running it through like a charcoal filter or multi-stage filter, just like you can remove a lot of the crap out. You're not necessarily going to get to the level of like the high grade drinking water filters, but you should be able to pull out a bunch of shit. The other thing I heard that were really nasty are hot water tanks, get
a hot water on demand heater, right?
Hot water tanks, are it can be a little gnarly.
The more natural, the better, Kyle.
If you think
hanging out in paradise, making paradise outside, man, what's with all this insideness all the time?
Well, I mean, if you think that hot tub in the penthouse at 4:00 in the morning after the 100-person party is disgusting, wait till you see the inside of your 10-year-old water filter.
Oh no. Oh no!
I didn't know where that was going, but for real.
This is actually a good transition point, because all of this stuff I think leads to the next topic we have Matt here for, and this is actually a good week for us because Matt, we've had some sicknesses in our family for the past 2 weeks. We've been taking temperatures. We don't know where our temperature is. Is it too high, too low? I forgot what our temperature even supposed to be, and they're like, "What? You're the dad. You're supposed to know the temperature." 97.9, 98.6. I had no clue. And you've got this whole thesis outlining what seems to be true. I did a little research before the show that as humans on this planet, our temperatures are dropping. Can you kick it off for us? Tell us what's going on here.
Sure. Okay. Let me start with the basics. So 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit is considered healthy resting body temperature, or 37 degrees Celsius. 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit has been the average, collectively speaking, for over a century. It was established in the 1800s. If you look into medical research and medical literature throughout the 1900s, 98.6 was considered the gold standard for good health. Body temperature is one of the most accurate markers for overall immune function and basal metabolic rate. And that's why when you go into a doctor's office, it's one of the first things they check. That's also why it's known as a vital sign, because your body temperature provides vital information about what's going on inside you. When we start talking about the connection between body temperature and basal metabolic rate, basal metabolic rate is your body's ability to convert food you're eating into energy and heat, and to support vital processes in the body, like immune response to pathogens, for instance. So about 30 years ago, our body temperature collectively started dropping. And about 15 years ago, the long-standing average of 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit dropped. I'm going to play the intro. I have a video series out on this right now. Episode 3 should be coming out soon, but I'm going to play the intro to episode 1 right now, so people can kind of see, take a look. Remember I said this, or remember you heard this here. This is one of the most significant events in human history, and people are going to be talking about this for a century to come. Right now, no one's talking about it, though. But let me put this video up.
Is this the one that's body temperature?
Yes.
Okay.
Forever that 98.6 is the normal body temperature.
But new research claims that's not the case anymore, and there could be a new normal.
Your normal body temperature is 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit.
Temperature of my body was about 98, about 0.6 degrees Fahrenheit.
The thermometer shows 98.6 degrees. That is normal body temperature.
And normal body temperature.
98.6 has long been considered that normal magic number, but Emily Kinzer is here with word from a doctor who said that's changing.
For 150 years, it's been commonly known, the average human body temperature.
98.6.
Even the thermometers at the drugstore say so. But what if we told you this is no longer the norm, and our bodies have cooled down considerably?
My name is Matt Cormier. Today, I'm here to discuss a global health crisis that no one is addressing, the decline of our body temperatures worldwide. Okay, so that was the intro to episode 1 of my video series. Basically, I'll give a brief summary. The main thing, one of the reasons why I'm here tonight is that we're all going to be doing, Damo is going to be heading up Club Maha Expose Sunday night on Twitter at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we're going to be giving an in-depth and comprehensive presentation on this, on why this is happening, what it means if you have low body temperature, and things you can do to recover, to restore metabolic rate and improve immune function. But really briefly, so pretty much everyone's aware that if you're running a fever, it means you're dealing with a pathogen, an infection, and your body's mounting a response to clear it. Generally speaking, this would involve, as I was mentioning earlier, a cell-mediated response. So you acquire an infection, body mounts a fever, production of lymphocytes, natural killer cells, apoptosis takes place, and your body gets rid of the infection. Okay, 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit is even. That's what you're looking for. That signifies immune system and metabolic homeostasis. What's happening, though, is that all of our body temperatures have collectively declined. 98.6 is no longer the average. If your body temperature is below 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, it means the immune system suppressed. It means a person is dealing with chronic infections. They can't mount a proper inflammatory response to clear them. It means that there's some degree of metabolic disease, hypometabolism, and low metabolic rate. So what's happening is that as a species, we've collectively become immunocompromised. And there's no easier way to check than by taking your resting body temperature. For anyone listening right now, you may have never heard this. People aren't talking about it. But mark my words, this is one of the most significant events in human history, and people are going to be talking about this for decades to come. Let me fast forward really quick. I'll end off here, is that when the immune system is suppressed and body temperature is low, and a person's dealing with chronic or latent infections, now when they get healthy and you improve metabolic rate, those underlying latent infections become acute. So In holistic health circles, this is known as a healing crisis.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, to put it simply, nowadays, the healthier you get, the sicker you become. So anyway,
that's trippy, man.
Yeah,
and in theory, when you talk about this like healing crisis, the idea is that that's temporary. That as you're getting healthier, these things come up, and then you sort of work through it.
Well, when body temperature is low, okay, so a person's going to have low basal metabolic rate. Generally speaking, they're going to have hormonal and nervous system imbalances as well. That goes hormone and nervous system problems go hand in hand with suppressed immune function. And then this ties directly into liver and gallbladder function. Damo, you've been talking a lot about gut health.
Mm-hmm.
The first place I would always start if there's gut problems is the liver and the gallbladder. Always. Generally speaking, what happens in the gut and the GI tract is a byproduct of what's happening in the liver and gallbladder, in the pancreas. So just my opinion, most of the times the problems are upstream. But so in regards to body temperature, we've all become immunocompromised as a species. We're all dealing with chronic illness.
Yep.
Everyone.
Yep.
And
so what is the new normal temperature then?
I don't really like the term new normal. Anything that deviates from normal is abnormal. So
not to be a conspiracy theorist, but they came out with all this new change of temperature right before they locked us down for a virus that they were about to say, do you have any of these symptoms? You need to go get a swab up your nose and go get this shot and do all this stuff. So wouldn't it behoove them to say the temperature was lower so that way any normal person with a 98.6 now was running a fever and now had a symptom of a future virus so they could go and play games with this lockdown scenario that we were going into?
I mean,
and then another thing I would say is we all used to take our temperature with mercury thermometers, and now we're all lasering our heads. And I just think there could be a difference with it. Like even Fahrenheit to Celsius, I'm glad you use Fahrenheit in it because Celsius isn't a finite thing and alchemists would never use Celsius. It's like anytime water boils, this is it. And anytime something freezes, this is it. But Fahrenheit actually uses salt to get the temperature involved. Like that's where they actually get so it's a more precise gauge of an actual setting. So 98.6 was always the normal. And then right before COVID, they tried to do this thing. But I also think both things are happening. Everybody is injured from vaccines. Because even with the herpes thing, where did the first herpes come from? I would argue from vaccines. So it's like, I just think it's over and over again what they're probably injecting us with. So they're making us sicker and sicker and sicker. And then we have no idea how we're shedding upon each other.
Those are
whether it's through childbirth or sneezing.
Yeah.
Cheney, I feel like you need to bring up this Bobby Blunt comment.
I just want to comment on that really quick, though. She's high making this much sense, folks.
Marijuana.
One thing I wanted to comment on is that
Mother Nature's medicinal medicine.
A lot of people haven't been taking their body temperatures. Most people don't pay any attention to it. When the COVID pandemic started, there was a lot of people that started taking their temperature and they were becoming concerned. They were going to the doctors and saying, my temperature's low. I'm not 98.6 anymore, especially those in the older age group. They remember when 98.6 was the norm. As far as discrepancies between where body temperature is taken, the form of thermometer, those are valid questions, but the research that has been published accounts for that. It takes all of that into account. And statistically speaking, as a species, our body temperatures have all dropped. So just to kind of put it really layman simplified is that when you have a fever, your immune system's reacting, you're fighting, right? When your body temperature is below 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, body temperature running low, your immune system's not fighting anymore, right? Your immune system is not doing its job. And then we start talking about various diagnoses, chronic conditions, mental health problems. It all falls under that umbrella of chronic illness.
And we're not talking like 1 to 0. Like if your body temperature is not 98.6 degrees, you would functionally have no immune system. But we're talking about immunocompromised, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And we are going to get into this in like a much more fleshed out presentation that you're putting together on either a space or a live stream. I think we might do it as a live stream so you can use visuals. On Sunday at 8 p.m. We're going to launch it from the Club Maha community on X. So please go and follow that. Join the Club Maha community on X. Real quick though, on this topic, have you found any potential causes? Have you gotten that far in your research?
Yeah. I highlighted a few of them in episode 2 of my video series. If anyone's interested in watching it, you can watch it on healthuncensored.com. It's free to watch. And episode 3 will be coming out there as well. So one thing I kind of forgot to mention is that in the same time frame that our body temperatures have been dropping, the rates of chronic illness have been steadily rising. As Billy kind of mentioned earlier, how glyphosate use trended exactly with gluten intolerance, cases of gluten intolerance. Our body temperatures dropping are trending exactly with increased rates of obesity, men's testosterone levels dropping across the board, happening at the same time as our body temperatures dropping. It all plays into metabolic health, thermoregulation, and overall immune function, basically. Chronic illness, hormone imbalances, But as far as the contributors go, heavy metal toxin exposures, antibiotics, exposure to microplastics, they're estrogenic, and that'll throw off thermoregulation as well.
We talked about this on Friday, some heavy metal toxification and microplastics throughout the body, even in the brain. And one of the things that you mentioned that was a little encouraging to me, not so much with heavy metals, but with microplastics, is that their half-life is actually kind of short. So with microplastics, at least if we eliminate the exposure or at least reduce the exposure, we can fairly quickly improve whatever issues those are causing.
Right. Absolutely. One more thing that's really important. We were talking a lot about autism, and there's a lot of research on the role of body temperature in regards to autism. When children with autism, when their body temperature elevates, they develop a fever. They see drastic symptom reduction. Autistic children that are nonverbal become verbal when they get a fever. They can make conversation. They can look people in the eyes. As soon as the fever comes down and their body temperature gets lower, all the symptoms return. Everything comes back.
And when you say lower, do you mean below that optimal 98.6 or even just back to baseline 98.6?
There's little to no research on the implications of lower body temperature with any diseases or conditions. There's a little bit on cancer, but no one's funding this research. No one's talking about it.
This is what I really love about you, man. You keep coming with these angles where you're like, nobody's talking about this, and I'm seeing some dots to connect. Can we just talk about it? And like, look, if you blow the points out of the water, great. But so far, I haven't seen that. Let's please talk about it. Mad respect.
Right. I'm just sharing my research, my opinion. It's worthy of further inquiry, but the fact is collectively speaking, our body temperatures have dropped. That's a fact. Body temperature goes hand in hand with immune function and basal metabolic rate. That's a fact. That's scientific consensus. So something's happening to us as a species.
Matt, do you see this going in America more than other countries? Have you seen that?
It's happening everywhere, all around the world.
Pretty much evenly?
There was a really, really, really interesting study that came out of Bolivia in the Amazon rainforest. To make a long story short, there was an isolated community of people, an isolated tribe of people in the Bolivian Amazon that in the early 2000s, they still all held healthy resting body temperature of 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit across the board. In that community, they also had no Alzheimer's disease, no Alzheimer's, no heart disease, and no diabetes throughout the whole community. And these 3 conditions, they all fall underneath metabolic syndrome. It's whether it's diabetes, Alzheimer's, heart disease, it's rooted in metabolic disease. But make a long story short, they all still held healthy resting body temperature 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. and then their body temperatures collectively dropped over a 16-year period.
With any was there any industrialization? Was there any heavy So this thing doesn't seem to necessarily connect with all the other things that you can pin on industrialization: vaccines, chemical food, microplastics, heavy metals.
Vaccines couldn't be excluded, but their lifestyles didn't change. Their diets didn't change. The communities didn't change much. But there was one major change, is that there was a group of people funded by the National Institute of Health to visit their community and improve their access to healthcare. They started getting access to conventional Western medicines and vaccines. And within a short period of time, that's when they started seeing a body temperature drop.
Okay, so pharmaceutical connection.
Pharmaceutical connection, sure.
Okay,
sure.
I was gonna go to pole shift.
Yeah. I try not to be an alarmist, and I try to always look at things reasonably and take everything with a grain of salt. But when I say that this is one of the most significant events in human history, I can't overemphasize that enough. I mean, we've all become chronically ill. We've all become immunocompromised.
One thing that pops here, I'm sure you guys have heard the tough times create strong humans. Strong humans create easy times. Easy times create weak humans. Weak humans create tough times. Is it possible that we are in those tough times from weak humans
the fourth turning
that are
sort
not
of an
doing
idea?
anything and lethargic and not going to hunt and kill and just sitting and ordering food, and we're just becoming lethargic? I read in all of this, kind of preparing for this, I kind of got a little sense that we're just in something different here, where we do have all these external things and things that are coming to our bodies, but could it be that we're somewhat lethargic and just sedentary and not doing anything? Is that part of it? And that raises, is it cyclical? Could we get ourselves back out of this if we get back to not being so sedentary?
That's interesting too, right? Because how long have we had a baseline sense of body temperature? And does this track with becoming more sedentary as a for instance?
I'm looking at this data going back to the early 1800s and the 1890s, and yeah, it's been going down from like a degree back 200 years ago, and then another half degree to 100 years ago, and then even more so since the 90s. So it's just the glyphosate angle for me though, Matt, that would make a lot of sense. Of course, this is I think the main culprit for health deficits: an antibiotic, a carcinogen, chelates our nutrients, and it's an endocrine disruptor. And just this last week, I don't know if everybody saw that North Dakota just passed a liability shield. So this is the same thing we're seeing from like Big Pharma, right? And they vertically integrated this. Bayer owns Monsanto. So Big Pharma owns those who are poisoning us. They're getting the liability shield for the vaccines, for the food that's poisoning us. And their only justification there, it's just as lame as the vaccines was. It's that we can't grow our food without poison, which is just crazy. You look around the world, nobody's growing their food with as much poison as us. And so we got to demand a whole lot better on all these fronts.
Why do you hate farmers, Johnny?
Dude, I love farmers, and it's the small farms that we're losing. And that's so important, because we're losing our local resilience, our independence, our food security in our localities. And we're more and more, people talk about us being debt slaves. We're more, we're at the mercy of these big corporate tyrants, and this consumerism is just getting more and more entrenched. And Thomas Jefferson, he had a vision for our country to be sovereign, being homesteads, being self-reliant, and we've really lost that. And it's all about supporting the small farmer who wants to do it right. The problem is, they've captured our legislators, right? So, they're passing these big subsidies that are going to the bigger farmers they want them to use the toxicity, use the glyphosate, use the GMOs. And it's the same thing with Big Pharma. We're letting them write, the Affordable Health Care Act. It's just no good, is it?
It's no good. But at least Bobby is updating the nutrition guidelines. He said that what they inherited from the Biden administration was like almost 500 pages long. It was absolutely inscrutable. And he's replacing it with essentially a 3-page document. It probably just says, eat grass-fed beef and drink raw milk.
I love that. I hope it says that.
I hope it says that. I don't know, but I'm excited because we've got Bobby in there now. He takes all this extremely seriously, and it's this sort of opportunity that can turn the tide. Like Billy, you were saying, are we right now in the hard times? I would say we've been in the hard times actually for a while. It was deceptive, especially in the United States, because we had this artificial inflation of the economy. We've got the central bank printing money out of thin air, and the last 10 or 15 years, it was just like a booming economy, but the real like work and wages economy was decoupling from it. It's been hard for like 15 years now since the great financial crisis. And it's only just coming to a head because the stimulus is running out. They can't, like, the whole thing is about to go off the rails. And either it's extremely catastrophic and we get another like Great Depression, which itself might catalyze that hard times, strong people, or we might have strong leaders now that can sort of short circuit how bad for how long and just institute strong but difficult decisions now that make that a shorter process, and especially shorter for the millions of us that are kind of ahead of the game. We've been looking into this. We have cared. We have felt, like Johnny said, at the mercy of these giant corporations. But a lot of us do recognize that if we dig and we care and we go a little out of our way, we can get ahead of this and do better for ourselves. And the way a free market economy works is the market goes where the demand is. So we are the pioneers, and now I guess I would even say in the stage of like early adopters for the new ways that are actually the old ways. And I'm praying that things like Maha create this groundswell of a movement where we really run with that, because there's a lot we can do to make this better, faster.
Just real quick, you guys, I want to plug, my friend's got a big event coming up in DC next weekend, and we're going to be talking about a lot of things like this, talking about freedom of speech, talking about the censorship, talking about, real science. They've poisoned the well of academic literature, big pharma and big agriculture, and they're going to be talking a lot about both these things. And just how we can keep the conversation going. What reforms, what policy initiatives do we need? How do we fix what's going on and make sense of it all? So yeah,
totally. Hey, that's that's another thing that I remember Bobby did recently. He removed all the pharma reps from the review boards at HHS. And this has been a big thing for me, not specifically at HHS, but generally, is for the last like generation or two, the fox got into the hen house. All these regulatory agencies are essentially run by the industries themselves, and they are legally obligated to maximize quarterly profit. So we've gone totally off the rails in how our government runs and makes these decisions. So we have to get the industry shills out of these decision-making bodies so they can operate, somewhat independently.
Johnny, where's the event?
So Johnny, is this the website? Is this the event here? This health?
You know what? Yeah, and I'm gonna put the link to that underneath that post I just made. I don't think I did that, but you know what? If you're Maha and you're in DC or close to DC next weekend, there's some big names going to be there. They're keeping it under wraps. My friend is organizing it, and she's got she wants to elevate all the different voices and not make it all about the big names that are going to be there, but some special names are going to be there. Some real courageous doctors, people who've been standing up, fighting the good fight. And
Johnny, I am only like an hour or so away from DC. Do you think you can connect me with them? I'd love to go if I can.
For sure. And I actually plan to be there as well, so maybe we can meet in the flesh.
Oh, I'd love that, man. Hell yeah.
Let's go. Yeah. Johnny. I'm 35 minutes out.
Billy's there too.
Hey, yo, Club Maha IRL.
Dustin.
You come, Billy? Let's do this.
I'm going, yeah.
Dude. Oh, hell yeah. Okay.
Dustin's back, boss man.
Kyle, get in that Cybertruck. Drive up to DC. Let's go.
Yeah. I hate DC.
I don't blame you. I grew up outside of DC. It's actually a beautiful town, but man, if your only context is the politics part, yeah, it's a cesspool.
It's not as beautiful anymore, man. It's really wild when you it's some parts that are just complete. I've lived there for a while, for almost 10 years, and It's definitely a little different.
After the inauguration, we were like, you know, at our friend Brock's place, and he just lives kind of on a little bit on the east side of DC, and like kind of like right on the edge. We went to the Safeway there, or no, the Safeway, and it was like a prison, like, you know, literally security guards to get in. You had to scan your receipt to get out. We went to the Walgreens, or no, it was a CVS, and they literally had the spam behind locks. It was friggin' savage. Like, you know, and I feel, and it was actually like, you know, the level of like, you know, that security made me want to steal. Like, you know, it's like, you know, it kind of it felt like it just, otherwise it's
like bet.
It's a challenge, exactly, Justin. So I don't know, guys. I mean, I feel like, you know, this has been an amazing show tonight, and thank you so much, Matt, for tuning in. You know, we'll be back next week. Ian's not with us tonight. He's transitioning to become Candace, so wish him well on his transition. And
most woke thing I've ever heard. White dude becomes a black woman. Let's go.
Yeah, becoming Candace.
Becoming Candace. That's a whole series in itself, isn't it? Behind the scenes.
Like that, becoming Brigitte.
Hell yeah. Follow, join the Club Maha community, jump into this presentation that Matt's going to be putting on Sunday night at 8 p.m. And get notifications whenever we go live with spaces. Follow the Club Maha Twitter account. If you appreciate what we do, go to patreon.com/Club Maha and show us the best way capitalism knows how. Every little bit helps us to do more of this even better.
Totally. Matt, any parting words, brother?
Well, I really appreciate being brought on tonight. You know, thank you very much. I look forward to seeing everyone Sunday night, 8 p.m. It'll be really special. I put a lot of hard work into this. It'll be really cool. If you're interested, check it out. But thank you everyone for having me tonight. You know, really appreciate it.
You're awesome, Matt. For somebody that's not comfortable with public speaking, and your videos were done well.
Yeah. I can do videos okay, but talking to people is just challenging for me. I don't present myself well, but give
I think you do better than you.
I disagree.
You do better than you think you do, man. Give yourself some credit for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great job. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much, Justin. Any final words?
Let's go.
Let's grow.
Let's hear that outro. I need the song.
Now, all right, take us away, Cheney. Thanks, everyone.
The sun on the field, the feeling I feel when I'm living my life for what's real. Make America healthy, feeling like it's time for a change. We're going back to common sense, making America healthy again. We're going back to common sense, making America healthy again. We're going back up healthy again.